Alrighty. Well, for those of you that were beginning to wonder, I managed to survive that party last week. Didn't get arrested, so that was a good sign. And from the bits and pieces I remember and from the way I felt Sunday morning, I'm assuming I had a pretty good time. But that was a good time. I saw some guys down there I hadn't seen since I was a freshman in college, and saw a bunch of guys that I don't know if I'll actually, well, we're trying to make that party an annual thing, so I'm sure I'll see, at least I hope I'll see him again, because there was one guy there, he lives in South Dakota, another guy's now with the regional agronomist for AgriGold in Wisconsin, a couple guys from southern Indiana. There's guys from all over there. Most of them are in grad school. Like I say, some of them I haven't seen since I was a freshman in college, so it was pretty cool to see them there. But anyway, didn't get a whole lot done this week because it's been colder than Billy hell outside. It's been dropping below zero at night, and it ain't been getting much above zero during the day. Tomorrow's gonna be the only warm day we're gonna get. It's supposed to be 32 degrees, but we're supposed to get a snow/rainstorm. That's gonna make a freaking mess. Although they haven't quite decided what they want it to do. It's either gonna snow and rain, or it's just gonna snow. They've said both, but it's changed every day this week. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But right now we're sitting at about, well, anywhere between 6 and 8 inches of snow on the ground, so I'm pretty sure we can rule out any groundwork, because even though it's been cold as hell, we've had that snow on the ground, which has created a blanket, so the ground's not actually freezing. So I don't know, we'll just have to see what happens. But kind of in a holding pattern on all the projects right now, because well, I'm waiting on parts. I got them, that stuff for the 4150 I'm going to start working on here, but it's not really in too big of a hurry to get any of it done because I don't really have any place to get in and work on it. I'm going to try to get it back into Morley's yet this winter, but they've got their own projects to do, so I don't want to take up their shop space, but shouldn't actually take more than a day or two to get that thing buttoned up and get it field where they're, right now I wouldn't have any problem taking it to the field. Geez. Seems to be all right, so, but just like anything, you won't find all the really broken stuff until you use it the first time, so guess we'll find out, fingers crossed. But then we went over and got the tin for the old tin off the gravity box. We're going to start, or hopefully get back on that here sometime around Christmas, but got to have one of our friends come over. We're going to measure it up and make it, or lay it all out in AutoCAD, because the place we took it, they are having a really hard time finding anybody that's worth a damn at drawing up parts. I mean, if a company shoots them a CAD file and the guys can just plug it into a computer, good deal. But Chris, the guy that owns it, said he cannot find anybody that's worth a flying you-know-what at doing stuff like trying to replicate stuff from parts, because he just says they can't find any talent anymore, because, well, we won't go down that road because it's going to lead into a rant about engineers, and that starts for another time. So yeah, gravity box hopefully going to be coming up here pretty quick. So I want to get that ready for this winter, for this coming spring. And so come hell or high water, it's getting done. And we're going to get that stuff drawn up next Friday so we can shoot them the CAD program, and they burn it out on a laser, and then they've got a CNC sheet metal brake. So once they get the CAD program, they can knock it out in a day or two. And he's supposed to be getting the new stainless ordered, because the parts that they originally cut out were so screwed up they couldn't even modify them to make the parts that we need, because they were all cut too small. And so he's supposed to be getting new stainless ordered for it. So there's that. Got the 1800 coming up. That won't be too big of a project, a couple days tops. Could actually, if we really pushed hard, I guess. Well, that's actually a lie, because we'd have to get it apart, take the clutch down, have a clutch shop go through and get it back. So if we had the parts laying on, if we had new parts here to just put it back together, that job could be done in 4 or 5 hours easy. But it'll probably take about a week total. But once we get it apart, get the clutch down and get it back, because the place we take our clutches to is actually a race shop. And generally winter is their busy time of year, because race car drivers are kind of like farmers. They spend all winter fixing the shit that they broke during the summer. So there's that coming up. Don't think I'm going to do a whole lot with this, other than we're going to get the dual hubs put on it. I think the exhaust system is going to wait another season. And I'd like to find a turbo elbow for it, some stuff like that, because some of it could probably be reused, but it'd just be easier to get a new elbow for it. It's where the elbow comes off the turbo is all rusted, and I don't know if it'd seal up that great even with a new turbo ring. So plus, it seems to be running good, and I'd like to get another season out of it before we decide if we need to do any major. Well, we know the motor needs overhaul at some point, but I'm not really ready to dump $7 grand into the motor to do it right. So, and she runs strong, and fuel cultivator and the color mulcher is probably about all it's going to pull. This thing, the 55 will flip back and forth between those, and then obviously it's stock chopper. But well, and the chisel plow, or the 3-point plow, they'll swap back and forth between them, but nothing that's really going to work the snot out of it. So I don't know. But anyway, on to the actual point of this video, since I've hardly already rambled on for like, not as long as I thought, 7 minutes. But since there's not going to actually be a whole lot in the way of projects, or obviously no farming going on right now because it's snow, thought I'd take this opportunity to answer a question that I get asked rather frequently, but I've just never actually had time to answer it, because I didn't actually start getting asked about it until I started getting more subscribers. And you look back this time last year, I was just hitting 1,000, so I've got 6,000 subscribers in less than a year, which is pretty impressive actually. I'd have never figured that one. But anyway, how I got started farming. So take a little walk with me, and we're going to go way back when I was just a baby. That's where the whole thing just kind of got set in stone. So when most kids say their first word, it's mama or dada or something along that lines. Nope, I skipped right over that, and I shit you not, my very first word was tractor. I wish I was kidding. And so I guess you could say my destiny was kind of set in stone from the very beginning. And ever since I was a little kid, Dad got me my first farm toy when I don't even think I could talk yet, and it's one of the few toys that's actually survived that long. It was a 1/32 scale white one. Actually, I don't even think it's a model on it. I think it's just a generic. It's a white workhorse. Might be 160. Tell you the truth though, I don't actually think it's got a either way, it's a workhorse series tractor. Gave that to me before I could talk. Gave me a pedal tractor right after I started walking. So ever since I was a baby, been around tractors. Oh, ever since I was a little kid, that's all I ever wanted to do was farm and be around farm equipment and stuff like that. And then when I was 8 years old, Dad bought me that 66. That was my first tractor. And actually, to back up just a little, even before I got that 66, when I was a little kid and Dad was home on the weekends, the few times that he was home, because he was always out of town working, or after he started his business, he was always on a job working weekends. I'd get him out of bed and I'd ask him if we can go for a ride on the tractor. And every time or before we went for a ride on the tractor, he asked me which one did I want to go for a ride on, because he made me start memorizing the numbers. And at that time we had the 4-speed 60 and we had the 77, and he'd make me tell him which tractor I wanted to go for a ride on. I couldn't just point and say that one. I had to say 60 or the 77. And then he bought me that 66 when I turned 8. 7.5, 8, somewhere in there. Pretty sure I was in 2nd or 3rd grade. I think it was 3rd grade. I remember Dad taking me out of school to go to the auction to get it. But then after I got that, and even before that, I was the neighbor. After he moved in, started making hay. And I was friends with his daughter, and I was always over there. And I was always riding on the tractor with him, raking and baling. That's where I spent a whole lot of time on an International 1086. Believe it or not, that's the first tractor I ever worked ground with, was International 1086. I used to drive it pulling their color mulcher, and I used to drive it chisel plowing. They'd either the neighbor or the guy, one of his friends, the helper that is kind of partners with him, they'd get me going and set me up in the seat, and they'd go over, and that tractor is so whooped in the heat and the AC's out of it, so they always ran with the doors off, and they'd get me started, and they'd swing over on the side of the cab and ride on the step hanging out of the cab and everything, and they'd be on the side with the hydraulics and everything on it, and they'd let me drive it. That was my first taste of working ground, was actually an International 1086, so I'm sure I'm going to get some shit for that. But they Farm All H and their Moline ZB, and that's all the stuff I learned to drive on, aside from what we got around here. Then I got that 66, and I started helping them rake hay with that. And always helped them with their sweet corn, stuff like that. And so I've been around farms forever, and helped him all the way through like grade school. And when I got up into high school and got my driver's license, I got a job on a farm out north of town here, which I spoke about a couple of times, and worked for him for, I worked for him a little bit before I got my driver's license, but that was kind of hard because I'd always have to find a ride out there, and sometimes I couldn't always get out there when he wanted me. So on and off, probably about 5 years I worked for him. And that's really where I started learning. I mean, when you're a little kid, you think farming is driving tractors and playing in the dirt and whatnot. And that's really where I learned started to learn the business of it. And then this whole time, Mom never wanted me to farm. She was always against it, and Dad always kept telling her, just let him do his own thing. He knows what he wants to do. And the best one is actually my first grade elementary school teacher. You know how teachers are supposed to encourage kids to be creative and pursue their dreams and whatnot? Well, my first grade elementary school teacher actually told my mom, why are you letting him, because I would always when we did, back in elementary school, you do show and tell and stuff, and I was taking my farm toys. That's all I ever knew was farm toys. And my first grade teacher actually told my mom, you really need to make him stop doing this, because if you let him go, or if you let him go into agriculture, he's just going to waste his life. Yeah. That didn't help the situation with Mom none either. But there was that one, but that was really only the only bad one. And it was when I got into high school. I had a economics teacher and my calculus teacher and one of my history teachers, and then in middle school I had one of my history teachers. They basically sat my parents right down and said, you ain't got to worry nothing about him. He knows what he wants to do. He's going to work hard for it. And granted, his mom still didn't listen to him, but so I did have some teachers, and my auto shop teacher, he's another one of them. They were the ones that helped me a little bit along the way, because when I was in high school, I was always a misfit. or when I was, well, yeah, it really started in, well, I switched schools in 5th grade, and that didn't help none. And I went to a little school with a bunch of farm kids, or a bunch of kids that were either from farms or lived out in the country, to a school with a bunch of city kids, and I was always the misfit, and I was just a dumb farmer, and I got made fun of pretty relentlessly, but frankly I didn't give a flying you know what. And so it was those teachers that kind of helped me get through it. That's really why I don't have any friends from high school around here, because I really didn't have any friends from high school. I was always just a dumb farmer, but I got them back because I graduated valedictorian of the class. Fuckers. So, anyway, a little off topic here. So I farmed for that guy for 4 or 5 years, and in my sophomore year of high school, I finally decided, you know what, I want to try farming on my own. At that point, I didn't have shit for equipment. I had the 66. I had the 66. We had the 60 and the 77. Didn't really have anything for implements. We had the moldboard plows and a disc. That was it. So that first year, I had my little 2-acre field out on the highway, and I had this 4-acre field right down from the house before we took the fence row and everything out. And so that first year, I put out 6 acres of beans, and that was the year the 525 showed up. And so that first year, I was able to work my own ground. I plowed it and fitted it myself, and then one of Dad's friends from high school brought his tractor and drill out, and he drilled my beans for me. And I combined them. I think that first year I got must have been about 600 bushel. Nah, it wasn't that much. So I hauled them in with the barge wagon, and it was 3.5 loads. So it would have been 350, round about 350, 400 bushel, somewhere in there. And that's how I got my feet wet. And then that next year, the couple of friends I did have from high school lived in my town here, and they farmed, and we decided we'd go in together. And I farmed with them for 3 years? 3 years, right? Honestly, can't remember now. But either way, I farmed with them for at least 2 years. And I kind of wish I'd have been into YouTube then, because there would have been some cool video. Had the 525 or in a John Deere 3300 running the same field, and there was lots of times we were running 2 and 3 tractors, and it was a good time. But tell you what, you know, they say don't go into business with friends. That's true, because it got real evident there that the division of labor was not quite equal. And I farmed with them up through my freshman year at college, and I was driving back and forth every weekend from college, and that got to be kind of rough. And I decided at that point that because of college I was done with it. I was going to get out of farming and focus on down there. Now, as you can imagine, that notion only lasted for about a month or two, and I decided that I wanted to stay farming again. So, and this is where I really screwed up, is when I decided I didn't want to farm with them anymore. I should have took all the ground that I found for us, because every acre that we picked up while I was farming with them, I found. If I'd have kept everything, I'd have been up around 120 acres right now, but I didn't do it because I'm trying to be, well, I didn't think I was going to grow this much. But so I farmed with him for a couple of years, and then my sophomore year of college, after like a month and a half of deciding I wasn't going to farm, I decided I was going to farm again. And so I got my little field out on the highway. I got the 2 fields here at the house. I did take one field that I found for us, but it was just a small one. And it just so happened that that same spring, one of the guys that I had tried getting ground from beforehand came to me and said, yeah, I want you to farm it. So I got another 6 acres there. All added up to I had 25 acres that second year I went off on my own. At that point I had all the equipment. I had got my 1955 that first year I was farming with my buddies, my senior year in high school. Had the chisel plow, had the field cultivator, had my 540 planter, had a grain drill by that. I had the whole setup by that point, so I had no problem farming on my own. And basically the rest has led me to here. That first year I had 25 acres. Next year I picked up about another 20, and I jumped up to 40 acres. And then this last year I picked up another 40, and now I'm farming 80. And actually now I think I'm probably right around 90. I got everything up. I actually lost one 4-acre. It's the field I had to leave the deer plot in, so it's probably actually only about 3 acres I actually harvested for myself. But I lost that field, not because I did anything wrong, which is the kicker. The guy that owns that field, most of his property, there's a pheasant hunting preserve, and he wanted to take that little chunk I was farming and put it back into the hunting preserve. So he's going to plant some fescue and crap out there to make a pheasant hunting area. But I do still have another 4 acres that he's been letting me farm for, I think this will be my 4th year on it, 3rd year on it. Now it's be my 4th year on it coming up. And since he took that other 4 acres away from me, he's let me farm this 4 acres 3 years rent free. So I'm not complaining too much. Plus that field's kind of shitty. It only about half came up, so I'm not complaining that much. And I picked up more ground anyway, so I still got a net gain this year. So yeah, that's kind of the long, boring story of how I got to where I'm at. And I'm going to tell you something. For anybody that wants to get into doing this, there's 3 things you have to decide right off the bat. Actually, not necessarily decide, but there's 3 things you have to do right off the bat. First, you have to be able to learn from your mistakes. Because if you don't learn from your mistakes, don't even try it, because you'll lose your ass every time. Second, if you make mistakes, you have to be willing to keep going, not just throw in the towel. Because if you get into this, even if you farm with old stuff like I do, you're going to invest a pretty good chunk of change in equipment to be able to do this. So if you're going to do it 1 year, doesn't turn out worth a damn, and you're not going to turn around and look and see what you did wrong and try to better it next year, you're just going to say, don't even try it, because you're just going to throw away a bunch of money. And the third thing, and this is the most important, at least in my opinion, is you have to decide what kind of person you're going to be. Because these days, there's 2 types of farmers. You got the farmers that will talk nice to your face, but then turn around and stab you in the back. And these are the guys that are always at each other's throats, just waiting for one to screw up, and they can come in and start taking ground and just turn it into a big old pissing match. Which is a shame. That's what farming has come to, but there's a lot of that these days. And then you got the type of farmer that I want to be, that just kind of, you sit back, you take baby steps, take it 1 day at a time, do the right thing by yourself and do the right thing by other people, and eventually stuff just starts coming your way. I'm not going to say I will never, because there's a couple people that frankly, because of the type of people they are, if I had the opportunity, I'd go try to snipe some ground from them. Although they got way more money than I do, so I'll never be able to get in a bidding war with them anyway on ground. But there are quite a few guys around here that throughout this whole ordeal have been very supportive of me, very helpful, really think it's kind of cool what I'm doing. And I'm not going to go around and betray them by becoming what most folks today call a BTO, or a big time operator, which in the farming community has kind of become the I guess what you'd call the scum. They're the guys that everybody talks bad about. Nobody really likes them. They'll talk nice to their face, but behind their back it's like, I don't want to be one of them guys. I refuse to be one of them guys. So I will never go around and take ground from anybody, especially the guys around here that have helped me out so much in the 7 years I've been doing this now. I can never do it to them. I know they'll never do it to me. I want to keep it that way. And the one thing you will find is that if that's the way you go about it, it all starts falling into place, and it all starts getting a little easier. Like the 40 acres I picked up for this year, I didn't even have to go after it. It came to me. I'll take that back. The one 13-acre field, I had to go after it, kinda, but the guy's friends with my grandmother, and he told her to have me come talk to him. So I went and talked to him. That guy didn't know me from Adam. I had never actually met him before. The only thing I had done was I went out there, and it was the video, or that's the field that I took the video of, that last video of chopping stalks in, and this is the one that I took a video last fall of fixing that field tile in, and the one I took a soil sampling in, it's that field. The only thing I had done, and I told him I was going to do it because I had them tile blowholes in it. I told him I want to go out there yet this fall. I know I haven't paid you any rent yet because I haven't put a crop on it, but he said, I know what, I want to get out there this fall. I want to fix them blowholes, and I want to get it chisel plowed. And I told him that's what I wanted to do. I told him I was going to get it done yet this fall before the snow flies. And because he had not been getting that from the previous renter. And so I went out there, fixed the tile, chisel plowed it, and I did exactly what I told him I was going to do, because he was leery about me chisel plowing it because that field's got one monster ass hill in it. And I told him, I was like, I know you're leery about it, but just trust me. I'm going to go in there, I'm going to plow that hill on a contour. Some bitch will not wash, I guarantee it. So I did exactly what I told him. I went in there, chisel plowed it, plowed that hill on a contour, didn't wash. That's literally all I had done to prove to this guy that I wasn't bullshitting him none. Just doing that just doing what I told him I was going to do, nothing else. He went out and got me another 19 acres for this year. I didn't have to go after it at all. It was two of his friends had an 8-acre chunk and an 11-acre chunk, and he went and he took me to them to go get that ground. And if you do the right thing, you will find that that's what happens, and it's all about doing the right thing. And that's how I want this to happen. I don't want. You do the wrong thing, you make enemies. And when you make enemies, you always got to be watching your back. I don't want to always have to be watching my back. I just want to be able to go off and do my own thing and get along with everybody. And there are still farmers around there like that. Case in point, well, the guys around here that have been helping me, there's Strefflings and Marshes and Oldhams, all great guys. They wouldn't harm a fly. They don't like them kind of the phrase they've been coined as the snipers that go around finding other people's ground and know, well, how much are they paying you? I'll pay you this much. And they don't like them guys either, and if you don't get that way, they won't get that way, and everybody gets along just fine, and you can grow, and you won't nudge in on them, and they won't nudge in on you, and that's just how it works. Unfortunately, you'll always have the assholes. That's just one thing you're going to have to learn to deal with. But just like everything in farming, you watch out for everybody else's back, they'll watch out for yours. And those guys that come in and try to get underneath you, they don't know, or they don't realize the mess they're getting into, because you don't have to do a whole lot of fighting back, and everybody else will jump in with you and they'll fight back. It's happened before. That's why you keep everybody on your side and you stay on everybody else's side. But, yeah, that's a little bit of rambling, I guess. This thing's already turned into 30 minutes long, so I guess probably ought to be wrapping it up here, and it's just kind of wanted to answer that question. I hope I did a decent job of it about how I got into farming and how I got to where I'm at and kind of the philosophy I have on things. And I may not have the biggest, fanciest, most high-dollar equipment, and there's always going to be them jackasses on YouTube that think you have to have. That's what kills me, is there's people on fucking YouTube. Well, it's the internet. There's always fucking people, but that literally think you can't farm unless you have the biggest, most badass, newest equipment. What they don't realize is the vast majority of farming gets done with equipment that's 5 years or older. It's only like the top, maybe top 10% of farmers are on like that 2-year rotation where they get new equipment every 2 years, either through a lease deal or they actually buy it outright. But the vast majority of farming gets done with equipment that is probably at least 5 years or older. And it just kills me, the people that think that if you don't have the most badass, newest equipment, you can't farm. I mean, granted, I only farm 80 acres, but you know what? One of these days I'm going to farm a lot more than 80 damn acres. One of these days I'll have newer equipment than what I got. But you know what? I know what I like, and I know what I'm going to stick to. And I don't need auto steer. I don't need GPS. I don't need electric drive planters. I don't need headaches. Frankly, I kind of like farming having a little bit of skill in it. I don't want to hop in a damn tractor, push a button, and sit there and babysit all day. I don't mind being a little worn out at the end of the day. It makes me feel like I actually got something accomplished. I don't want to ride in no air ride seat. It makes me feel like I'm riding in a Cadillac. I want to feel the field a little bit. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a dinosaur born in the wrong time. Maybe I should have been born about 1930. Then I could have grown up using this stuff, and by now I could have retired and said, you know what, you guys, this is how you want to farm. You can have it. I don't want none of it. And all you guys that farm with older equipment, don't let anybody tell you otherwise. You just look them right in the face and say, yeah, bullshit, bud. You ain't got to explain yourself, but take pride in your equipment, take pride in what you do, and can't nobody take that away from you. No matter how hard they try, no matter how much it pisses you off. And believe me, it pisses me off. But anyway, probably ought to wrap this up because now we're approaching 35 minutes, so I guess that does it for this one. We'll catch you all on the next one.